this is an awesome day. Okay, we are now heading into our final session for today. We have one more fireside chat coming up. Today, in this fireside chat, we are excited to welcome Raul Popa. He is the CEO and co-founder at TypingDNA, serial founder and machine learning enthusiast. He also was part of Techstars in the New York program in 2018. This session, Raul will be interviewed by XBernat Nacsa, principal at Day One Capital. So guys, if you want to go ahead and ask to join, we'll get you up on the stage. And one last thing, this session is actually co-organized with the Stretch Conference, and they have generously offered a discount code to all of our attendees here tonight. So look out for that in the follow-up email, discount to the Stretch Conference coming up this December. So thanks everybody for being here. I see XBernat has made it.
Hi.
Hi, welcome. And Raul, if you're still with us, go ahead and click Ask to Share Audio and Video, and we'll get you up here on the stage. Looks like he made it to the backstage, but we've been having, this is our technical difficulties day. So yesterday everything was smooth sailing, so we're making it up for it today. How are you doing, XBernat?
I'm great, thanks. How's the event so far?
Good. Yeah, it's been jam-packed. Yeah, today is the day of technical difficulties, but we've managed to get everybody on the stage. So I have full confidence we'll be good.
Right. I mean, Raul is highly technical, so I'm sure he will figure it out.
Yeah, it's like inversely correlated. I feel like the more technical someone is, the worse technology behaves for them. It's like they get scared.
Right.
I don't know.
I will make sure to ask him about this.
Yeah, good. All right, it looks like he was admitted, but it's not showing up. Raul, if you can still hear me, maybe just refresh the page. That sometimes will solve all the problems. Yeah, I keep making the same joke, but we have this hashtag for the conference, hashtag Untold Stories, but our secondary hashtag is hashtag refresh the page, because that's that's our other. There we go. Hi, Raul.
All right.
Hey, how are you?
All right. We can hear you. We can see you. XBernat, the floor is yours, and looking forward to the discussion. Thanks, gentlemen.
All right. Thanks so much, Mary. All right. Hi, Raul. So I'm happy this story will be told after all. Great to have you here. So, just for giving a little bit of context, TypingDNA, the company which was co-founded by Raul, is building an authentication technology based on behavioral biometrics. And specifically, they recognize patterns in typing, which is unique to every person. And they use this in various industries, from financial industry to education. The company was funded in 2016 and raised close to 10 million USD so far. Did I miss any important details, or do you want to chime in, Raul, just to give a little bit of context to everyone what TypingDNA is doing?
No, I think you kind of nailed it, I think.
All right, thanks. So I think the best is to start at the beginning. So if you could let us in your personal background, how did you first encounter the idea of TypingDNA, and when did you decide that it's good enough problem to solve to devote years of your life?
Yeah, I was. So first of all, I was into machine learning at some point. So I started. I taught myself coding when I was in school. And then for a while, I studied other things, and coding and development and these kind of things. I went to psychology and other things like that. And eventually, I started working in this domain, and I started picking up on machine learning, and I thought machine learning is really cool. And I started playing with pattern recognition algorithms and all that. And eventually, I stumbled upon this idea of looking at how people type and authenticating them. And it's actually quite an old field. It's like over 50 years or something of work. Even before the computers, there was this, when you tap in Morse code, even how a person types a Morse code can be different than how a different person types Morse code. You can still understand what they're typing, but the Morse. But there's some differences and some in accents in how they do this, so that the person at the other end was able to recognize who is that. And then based on that, research went forward. And I was looking at some research that was done in this field. It was called keystroke dynamics. This is how officially it was called 20 years ago or so. Now it's becoming more and more typing biometrics. People call it like this because keystroke dynamics doesn't say anything about whether it's a biometric or something else. And I think the accuracy was really bad. So I was quite sad that all this research didn't get to a good solution that is actually quite accurate, that can be used. And I kind of think at that point that some of the things that I learned in pattern recognition in one field could be applied to this other field, and you can actually get a better accuracy. And once you have that, because I had this product manager background for like 7+ years, I was a head of product and I managed a lot of products, and I've seen user behavior a lot, and user experience was something that I was really interested to. And I understood that if this is solved, then this can be applied in so many ways in authentication and solving user experience when the user is authenticated. Why is that important? Is that nobody, when you fly, nobody goes to the airport with the idea, now I'm going to go through the TSA, right? So that's
not a very good experience.
Nobody dreams about going through the TSA. The TSA is the authentication, basically. It's the login, the password, the 2FA that you have to do, and all that. Nobody wants to do that. They want to use the application. They want to travel, in this case, to fly. Maybe you like maybe you like the time when you spend in the terminal, when you buy some perfumes and other things like that. But nobody ever told me that they like the TSA thing, or somebody maybe like to be tapped or something like that. But most people don't like, right? So it's the same thing. If you can figure out authentication or parts of the authentication, like we're trying with TypingDNA, I think you can deliver a much better experience to the user, and then people will want to use your service. Imagine if one airport would have TSA, another will not have TSA. I think every person will use the one without TSA because you don't want to go to there.
Right.
It's same way here.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally the digital version of signatures, just recognizing digital handwriting in a sense.
Yeah. So your question was when I started to think about this. This was much before I started TypingDNA. Actually, It was one idea that I had on a list, but then eventually I started later, because the idea didn't give me peace.
Right. And when you started, did you immediately believe 100% that this could be something as big as you see it now evolving, or did you have kind of like an aha moment later on that this could really work? So how did your conviction evolve in the idea as you started?
I think this is a very good question, broad question. So a lot of people think first technology is possible, but they don't know exactly where this technology can apply. Or a lot of people understand that, look, if I have a button on which I push, then it rains, then that button would be very valuable. They have no idea how to make that. It's not the button there, right? But the idea that you can sell that because that it has a lot of value. Some people start the business with that. So either you value what you can sell, the vision and all that, but you know how to make it, or you know how to make it and usually don't have the vision, what to do with it. I would say that in my case, I kind of have the background to see both, to see how it can be done and also what it can achieve in terms of vision. So I kind of I've seen most of the possibilities very, very fast. The problem is how to get there. Because it's not easy, so our technology is better. We have a technology called TypingDNA Verify. It's better than SMS OTP, those codes that everyone gets on a phone to authenticate on a different website. We have a technology that only allows you to type in or requires you to type in 4 words. So just like dictionary words, a very, very simple and fast method. It's like 2-3 seconds. And then you don't have to get the code. But in order for that to be used everywhere, you need more early adopters, more innovators that want to use that. Because even if the SMS method is not user-friendly, it's not secure, it has a lot of flaws, every bank, every big company is using it because everybody else is using it. So a chief information officer or chief information security officer would say, look, I don't want to be the first to do something very wrong. I'm okay to do something very wrong if everybody else is doing it.
Right. So based on that you are doing a ton of machine learning to get your results, I guess you had to use a lot of data. So how much data or how much input you needed for the algorithm to actually work, and then individually, how much data do you need from me for it to work for me? So for my typing style.
That's very interesting. So we figure out the thing that in machine learning, most of the time, especially for biometrics, the idea was that you need a lot of data from a particular user, and then create a sort of anomaly detection algorithm that only uses the data that you have from that user, and will detect whenever somebody is somebody else and not that user. So this was the idea in keystroke dynamics back in the day, and a lot of in other biometrics as well. You record a lot of samples from a user, and then you authenticate them basically like an anomaly detection. You detect if somebody very, very different than that person, and then you don't let that person in. But the idea is, if you want to do this online, you don't have 10 samples or 20 or 50 samples from a user. So you want to figure out something that will work with 1 or 2 samples from a user. In that respect, you have to use other people's data. Yeah. And then it's a more complex. In order to authenticate this very single person, you actually have to know everybody else. It's more complex than instead of just knowing that person. But you can do with very, very few samples. So we basically created an algorithm, an authentication technology, but behind the scenes matching technology that basically learns from everyone that we put into the system. And it's so complex that basically it doesn't have to learn you. It just has to see patterns that belongs to you and new patterns, and they can say, look, this one is from this person or not. So it can look at previous patterns, even with just one single previous sample. So you write in your email or your username, password, or those 4 words, and with 1 or 2 or 3 previous samples, which is very few in terms of biometrics, it can say it's you or not with a really high accuracy. So that's the new approach. And in some other domains, this approach started to be used. So in idea, you need either a lot of data from a user, yeah, and then it's not a user-friendly approach. That's the problem. Or you need a lot of data from other users, from a lot of other users, and the more you have, the better. But from the user, you need less. And we approach this second idea. And the way we arrived to the data, actually, initially, TypingDNA was not about authentication. I was thinking, what if you can look at how people type and say, you know, what their gender is, what their age, things like that about who they are, just based on how they type. Because imagine when you go to a site like Google, but other search engines where they don't know who you are. And I think in the future, more and more search engines will not know who you are because you don't want to be known. But then you look there like, I don't know, black shoes, right? You can be an old person, you can be a young person. You can, instead of looking for like very sophisticated or comfortable shoes or like sport shoes, you can be a woman, you can be a man, and so forth. So many things that you didn't type. If you can figure out from how the person typed all that, then you have a better chance of showing better results and making the sale. So the thing is, when I started thinking with this idea of being able to, without profiling the user for a long time, just look at the text and know some statistic information that can help you show the right content. And that was the first idea for TypingDNA. Authentication was something later, but I created a test that said, find out what your typing says about you. That basically look at how you type, a few paragraphs, and was trained on very few users, but it was fun to do. And like 200 users. And it was telling you things like, you're a man, you're a woman, you're 20 years old, your MBTI profile, things like that. Of course, none of them was very accurate, but was better than random chance. So some were like 70% accuracy. The highest was IQ. So we were able, about 90% percent, to say whether a person is really high IQ or not. We trained that with people from Mensa. Basically, we asked them to type, and then we create a classifier between really high IQ and no IQ and low IQ.
But by the way, is it consistent within a person? So if I'm typing, I don't know, in a hurry, just going to a meeting, just typing an email, or just waking up on a Sunday and kind of tired and just typing something, I don't know, different moods, different times of the day, is my typing consistent?
So that's a very good question. So first of all, maybe it's not interesting for the audience, and just saying maybe some questions.
Yeah, I'm not a very good moderator. It's just super interesting, but we'll go to other topics as well.
For me, it's interesting. So so the thing is, like your voice will always sound like you. It's not. I mean, it's really hard. You can force yourself to sound like somebody else, but usually will sound like you. In the same way, your typing will reveal who you are. The authentication will work, and even the profiling if we want to do that. But we're not doing that anymore. I was telling you about that because that's how we actually got to be viral. Yeah. The test find out what your typing says about you got viral, and we got to tens of thousands of users. And then based on that, we started working on the authentication algorithm. So that's how we got actually to get a lot of data. And it was a time when it was easier to do that. Now with everyone fearing privacy, they don't check the box that they agree to share the data or something like that. But we were lucky to be able to collect a lot of data with the user consent when this was more or less of a problem. And we were able to build this algorithm. So the thing is, you want to your voice will be always showing that it's you. But in the same time, very angry. Your voice will be different when you're sleepy or something like that, right? I mean, you will detect this person is angry. You don't have to see, and you don't have to. I don't have to hear how you shout and to see you first time when you're shouting to know you're shouting.
Okay.
I don't have to learn that. That's not something that I have to learn from you. It's enough to see it in other people. So we found that while you can say something about a person, authenticate that person, recognize the person, recognize the gender and stuff like that, or to a certain extent, or IQ or something like that. On the other side, you can also recognize moods, which are similar for different people and not similar for the same. So different people can be angry.
Basically, they are different dimensions of uniqueness, like being one identity and being in different moods, different other aspects, and you can just combine them. Yeah, super interesting.
And there's just one second. There's an app we made. It's called TypingDNA Focus. If you go to typingdna.com, it's a free app. We don't charge for it, so you can download it from typingdna.com. You go to Focus. It works for Mac now, but we're launching a Windows version as well that tells you the moods that you have while you're typing, when you're working, when you're on a computer all day. You can see when you were angry, when you were sad, when you were happy, and all that. There are a few things that we look. Actually, angriness is not one of those, but happy, focus, calmness, those kind of things.
Cool, super.
I mean, anyone wants to use it, feel free.
Yeah. All right. Let's look it up. All right. So another topic I wanted to ask you about, what I really like about TypingDNA is that you had this kind of global mindset from very early on. So right now, I think you are sitting in the US, but from early on, you did not build for local companies. You did not necessarily build for local users in Romania. So can you tell a little bit about your journey? How did you recognize, based on your past experiences and kind of what you wanted to do with the company, that you need to have this approach? And
so this is obviously a type of technology that will not be appealing locally as much as globally. So, and you want to get to people who really understand or have a need for it. So developers, product managers, people who understand user experience, and this can be sole user experience, or for example, e-learning. They use TypingDNA to verify students when they take exams to make sure it's the same person. And you just don't have the mass in Romania or in Hungary or in like a smaller area like that. So you have to go global from day zero. So that's what we did.
All right, cool. Also connecting to that, so you raised close to 10 million USD so far across multiple funding rounds. 9. Well, it's close to 10 as well. If we are rounding it up. And you have angels, local investors, a global accelerator, global industry-specific investor on your cap table. So can you tell me a bit about what's the company investor fit at different stages of the company, and when it makes sense to raise from different type of investors? At least how was it for TypingDNA?
Yeah, so I think we had I think it's a very typical type of fundraising that we did. And I think a lot of companies should do this if they didn't, or if they don't think of this. But it's quite atypical for a Western European company to go this way, or rare, but it's the best way. So what we did is basically first we took investors from Romania. We started in Romania. We took investors from Romania, a few of them, to help us launch first version and to go to the next milestone. Then we went through Techstars, which is in New York City. You can obviously go to Techstars in Berlin or in Paris or in London or so forth. So there's definitely other places in Europe. You don't have to go all the way to
Was it a specific program of Techstars?
It wasn't a specific program for Techstars, but since we realized we're in the space of identity and cybersecurity, we want to be where most companies and most specialists and most knowledge around the subject is, and that's New York City. And we applied to Boston and New York City, basically. We didn't apply to London, but I think London is a good option as well, or Berlin. I know Texas Berlin really good accelerator as well. So there's definitely a lot of other places where it depends on what you do. It wasn't a specialized identity or fintech or whatever type of accelerator, which is New York City. The thing is, so that was the second thing that we did in terms of funding. And at that point, after we went through Techstars New York, we simplified the whole concept. We realized, look, we cannot go with like 10 visions. We have to have one unified vision where the typing biometrics company, we're doing everything around typing biometrics, not everything around identity or authentication and other things. And then from there, we realized what we want to do, where we want to go next. We raised another round, also a seed round basically, but like 1.5 million, something like that. And then, or a little more. And then we last year we raised $7 million, and in this case we call it a Series A, but because we're a deep technology company, it's more like a super seed. It's still a seed, like a larger seed, but it's not a growth round yet. It's more like to develop more technology and get to more put the technology in front of many clients and the technologies that they're building and so forth. So it's like still it's a domain. I think there are two types of startups. I think we discussed this before. There's those startups that don't build anything innovative, but they build for a market. And basically what they do, they reduce the time for that client company to build it themselves. So let's say you build, I don't know, a chat technology. It's not something innovative. I mean, can have some features that are innovative, but most of it is going to be like a chat application, a server for chat, a client for chat, everything that has to be integrated. And maybe it will take like 1-2 months for a team to develop it with bugs, with all that, to repair the bugs, and all that will take maybe 6 months. And if a bank wants a chat that really works so that they can discuss with their clients, they will just buy it from a company like Stream, for example, Stream.io. Or something like that, and it doesn't have to be developed or Intercom or something like that. So these are many companies are like this, and in these companies, a Series A typically, is a growth round. Basically, you want to get from X number of clients to more number of clients. You don't want to change the product or anything unless it gets you more clients and all that. In the deep technology space, and we were talking about this idea that East Europe has a lot of deep technology companies. In a deep technology company space, I think there's a lot of other things to look at. A technology needs to reach a certain level of awareness in order to start creating growth. Like look at UiPath. UiPath needed a lot of time before they started growing really fast. And so first few years were more about understanding the market, because it's a completely new technology, and wants to be to lead a huge wave in innovation. And it's something that another company cannot develop for themselves. It's just something you don't develop an operating system for yourself in the same way you don't develop this or something like that. So right. I think a lot of times, and probably investors know this much better than me, and probably you can give your opinion. But I think a lot of times we just don't look at companies in the same way. We just look, this company raised this amount of money, but this company is in stealth, and this is a deep technology company and raised $20 million. And how come they raise this much? They have 0 clients. Well, they're working on something really cool.
Right, and do you see this as a shift from being this kind of deep tech focused company to a little bit more execution style as you scale, as you grow? Because I think that's what we've seen with UiPath, that the proportion of salespeople grow as they mature, and they still keep innovating. They do further product development, but I guess for the overall success of the organization, execution, sales, and just distribution overall will become a more and more important factor. Like, do you see the path for TypingDNA as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like very similar to like a game of chess, if you want, or any. There are many type of strategic games like that. So first part of the game, you don't really. I mean, you always want to win. You think that you want to win, but you're not gonna play to win in the first few moves. I mean, unless you're playing a really a beginner or somebody who sees like quick moves that you can win with, right? But otherwise, you're not.
Raul, sorry, but just a quick note: you need to send me your chess ID on chess.com if you have some, and we will play some matches.
Well,
sorry, continue.
And I know Hungarians are really good at chess, so
I'm below average.
Anyway, so the thing is, at the beginning, you basically what you're doing, you're developing your game, you're developing your position, so that when the time comes, you can do a strategic in and out. Basically, you either capture pieces like and all that like very fast, and then you win, or you go for a win directly. But first, you just create the position and build some material and maybe capture a few pieces and all that. But basically, the first part is creating this. And I think for deep technology companies, this finding the right position in terms of where your pieces are before you actually go for the market is very, very important, because you're not copying something that already exists. You're creating something new, and you have to have all the pieces in place, and some of them will fail. And you have to know that some of them will fail and how they will work. And then is a two-part strategy game. First is building the technology and focus a lot on that. And you need investors to understand that the big goal is not to grow linear, is to have the technology, then at some point it just grows exponentially, and then you focus on growth. And so there's two stages. And when you focus on growth, you pretty much not change anything on the technology itself. The technology is already there. You just make incremental improvements at that point. Sustainable innovation.
Right. And as your company grew, as TypingDNA grew and growing into the future, how did the organization develop? So how did you first share responsibilities with your co-founders? Can you tell a little bit about your first hires, and then hiring kind of second layer of leadership? So if you have any philosophy or experience you can share about that, because I think that's a very common challenge from, let's say, after seed up to like Series B to or Series A.
So the way we're organized, we basically have a parent company in the US, where I am now, and then we have a child company in Romania. And the child company was actually the first company that we created, and then we created the parent and did an exchange of shares. And then investors, basically US investors, we have Google on our keep table through Gradient Ventures. Basically, they and everyone else invest in US parent company. But most of the or big part of the employees and the development and a lot of things are done in Romania, in the offices that we have in Romania.
Right, and sorry, maybe I wasn't super clear. So, can you tell about the hiring and kind of getting the right people in your organization at this stage, and kind of the further stages what we talked about?
I missed that part. Telling me about how we're.
No worries.
Yeah, so we're. I think at the very beginning, any startup needs to sort of find people that they know through somebody. You don't hire people that you don't know just like you within a larger company, because in a larger company, larger corporation, everyone is a number, can be replaced. And that's how it works. At Microsoft, at Facebook, at everywhere. I mean, Facebook, maybe Mark Zuckerberg is not replaceable, but everyone else could be replaced, right? Should be replaceable. And when you create a startup, yeah, well, it's good to be able to replace anyone at any point. It's a good strategy for the company. That doesn't really happen. What happens is that instead of hiring a person that will be replaceable, you hire a person that is very good at multiple things and that can solve the problems that you have at that time, like a CTO that also does three other things, or a salesperson that also does marketing, also does whatever. So at the beginning, the ability to work together and to build prototypes, and even the sales is a prototype itself, and to try different things and be able to adapt and grow very fast. This is very similar with like very different than the corporation kind of style. And what you want is to hire people that you know, that you worked before with, or that are recommended by somebody, like an investor. Investors are really good at the first stage because they can recommend people that you don't know but are very good for the task. And you talk with them, meet a few times, and then you realize, actually, I like this person. Let's start. But you basically want some sort of referral sort of approach to building an initial team. The more you grow, you get to like I think 100, 120. People, 150 people, it's considered like a tribe size, is where people don't know each other anymore after that. And it's a point where you should specialize intensively and basically hire people that can be highly replaceable. Before that, I think that we are 30 people. At 30 people, everybody knows everybody, even if we're remote and all that. And you kind of still want to hire as much as possible through references. You want to, somebody knows somebody who knows somebody and so forth. But you already start for some positions to look at people who are specialized and try to go through either a company that does recruitment, or to post your jobs online, or really depends how big the market is for that job and how many people are looking for jobs in the space. So if, for example, you're looking for developers, those are not easy to find at this time anywhere in the world. So it's hard to get to them.
So basically, just to summarize, this shift from looking for very good and creative generalists to looking for good specialists aligns with or kind of parallel with how working as like a creative deep tech, solving problems, to going into execution mode, what we talked about earlier.
In my opinion, that is true. Maybe others will take a different approach, but I think that is true. That is, you have at the beginning, you have like a family sort of start, like a party, like everybody knows everybody, and you cross the line sometimes with these people. I mean, you're friends, you're talking things that you should in a corporation you don't talk and all that, but that builds for example, me and my co-founder Christian, we lived together for a few months in one place and then in another, and when you live together, you have all sorts of other problems, or all sorts of other things than just working on a technology. But that helps the company succeed, and then on the longer run, it's a really good exercise. But in the corporation, nobody asks you when you go and I don't know, you get hired at Goldman Sachs as a manager. You will never go and maybe sleep in the same room with a colleague of yours because it's cheaper. As a startup, you have to do that as well sometimes. Or it works a little bit different, and I think it works for the benefit of the start. The startup founders have to be open to that kind of putting more time in meeting other people's needs and understanding other people more and all that. And the more you progress, it becomes a management job. It's not necessarily a founder's job. It's not necessarily everyone's job. It's the managers, and the way the organization becomes from a tribe something more. It's something very complex, actually. Like I think startups around 100 people size, let's say Series B, Series C, maybe somewhere around those lines, have to bring like senior leadership that is able to help grow the company further. It's not something that most founders are able to do.
Right. Was it something natural for you from the beginning, or something you realized you have to do like more intently, building culture, building trust, building personal connections within the organization?
Yeah, I think culture you can build to a certain extent. Culture is something that everybody brings in a way. I mean, you can be a dictator and say this is our culture, but everybody else is a different person. So we basically adopt what everybody else is. But some things really is hard to build yourself, and you have to sort of rely on investors, on other people that can help, senior leadership that you can hire for specific roles, more specialized roles, and all that. Sometimes this really makes a difference. It really depends on the type of startup, the type of of group. I think a lot of companies are companies that can succeed only if they're like thousands of people, and other or hundreds of people, like a large team. And other startups can succeed with 10 people. And if you can succeed with 10 people, by all means, go with 10 people. But sometimes you cannot. You need more people and to do different things, and you need to specialize, highly specialize, and culture is very important and all that. The more people you have, the more culture is more important. The less people you have, understanding everyone is different, and just have this diversity culture. Basically, everyone can do whatever they want and make everybody comfortable is enough. You don't need a culture like we are like this, or procedures. You don't need, like with 10 people, you don't need that many procedures and all that. In a way, it's nicer. It's like Instagram when they were bought, were like few people, handful of people, or like WhatsApp or so forth. There's so many companies that were like less than 100.
Yeah.
Sometimes less than 10.
Yeah. So you're definitely kind of sharing experiences with the people in your organization, but there's also another aspect where you do that with other founders. So I think we previously chatted about this. How do you find your peer group? How do you find the people, other founders you can support, you can get support from, and who do you define as your peer group?
As a founder, I think it's very important to have this sort of accelerator approach to meet other founders. It's very, very hard. So when I started TypingDNA, I was before a manager, I was before a co-founder in other companies and all that. But because I wasn't a active co-founder, like a CEO kind of, I was not involved in meeting other people from other companies and all that. I was involved in product and meeting clients, but not necessarily other people. And then when I started TypingDNA, we went through three accelerators. First one was in Bucharest, and the MVP Academy of How to Web Accelerator, which was really cool. And there basically made me meet with everyone in the industry, everyone who really mattered in the industry. So I kind of, in like 3 or 2 months, I met with everyone, and mostly in Romania, but also in other parts of Europe. And then I went to Poland to another accelerator, and I meet other people from Central Eastern Europe, and then in New York with other people and so forth. And in a very short amount of time, I was able to understand who does what and what kind of profile has each, and who would be the go-to person for what. And once you have this sort of peers, as you said, people you can, as a founder, you can share things. Everything becomes like a game of chess in a way. You know what person can help with what, and you can help other people, of course, on whatever need that they have. But all of a sudden, all these founders that all these other, maybe not founders, sometimes it's like a CTO of a company, or who's not maybe a founder, or I don't know, a really good security architect or somebody like that. But all this network that you create becomes a part of the family, and they, even if they just hit like and share some of your posts. All these, like, supporting each other is very, very, very important for startups. Once you grow the company over the tribe side, probably like CSB, CSC, people kind of distance themselves, and it's like you talk more with maybe investors, board members, maybe a few people that you hire instead of like friends. And then the peers that you as a founder start, discussing more are either colleagues, basically management colleagues and investors, or you have coach at that point or something like that you will pay to help you address some of the issues. But you don't longer spend a lot of time with other funders. What we did with angel investors, so we have angel investors, we have Daniel Dinesh from UiPath, we have Olivier from Datadog, we have a few investors like this that are CEOs or co-founders of large unicorn companies. And we did this basically because we can learn from them. Like, not everyone, but some of these have, most of them don't have time, but some of these have time sometimes to meet and learn from them. And when you can do that, that's also very, very helpful, because they already have an investment in the company and want to see you succeed.
Yeah. Are these relationships really asymmetric? So, when you chat with any of these people you mentioned, if you have an hour with Daniel, like, is there, it's basically him helping you, or it's like a mutual discussion? He's also sharing some stuff. Like how should we imagine behind the curtains?
Daniel is not a good example. He's super good. But other people I do get to meet more often. Even other people from UiPath that were invested in us personally. Yeah, so I think it really depends on how much time they have. You know, but definitely everyone is really wants to help. Some people you don't meet, but they talk with other investors, other people, and they just tell them about other product managers, whatever, and they tell them about you. Hey, did you check this solution? They're really cool. They're doing this and that, and the trust that they have already established with that investor or that client or whatever, that trust can basically help you achieve you know, some sort of success that otherwise it was not possible. Sometimes they can advise you. It's very good when they can advise you. Otherwise, they help you with other things like supporting in different other ways. Definitely a good thing to do. So and at every round we got angel investors in for different amount and different type of angel investors, but we always had few angel investors. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's a good idea, and this is something that big accelerators actually propose, like Techstars propose. You always want to have some, and even investors like VCs want to see that some other people, like many other people, have conviction in what you want to do. Even if they put less money, they put some of their own money. Maybe like can be a 25K or a 50K, but still it's enough to show more people have conviction about this, and then the VCs come in and puts in like 3 million or something like that, which is more money, but not more money for them necessarily.
Yeah, I'm personally a big fan of involving angels in like seed rounds we are doing. Yeah, definitely. All right. In the meanwhile, to the audience, feel free to put in questions to Raul, whatever you're interested in. And yeah, in the meanwhile, can you share maybe some of the counterintuitive things you've learned in your journey? So any kind of mindset shifts, realizations that you thought about a thing or a theme in a certain way, and then over time you completely reverse on that, if there are any such shifts?
Yeah, there's one that seems to apply everywhere, and we started seeing this, and I started seeing this everywhere. Is the hardest the problem is, the hardest the way to the solution would be. And not always, but I think most of the time. Sometimes it's exactly the opposite. But the thing is, you start solving a problem. It's like most problems are finite. So eventually, if there is a solution, the solution will present itself at some point. Whether you want to grow, whether you want to sell, whether you want to create a technology or something. If that is possible, if somebody else builds something like this, or if that is possible, you will be able to arrive at the right solution at some point. But the more complex the problem is, will take a lot of time. And what happens is that a lot of people start losing their patience, or start losing the start thinking that the mind works this way. If you're looking, let's say you have a you have a bag full of 10 balls, and one is black, the other one is white, and you keep going in the bag, taking from the bag a ball, and it's always white, right? Because it has more chances to be white. Actually, at each throw, you get a better chance to pick the black one. The fact that you're not picking the black one is not a good argument that you will never pick the black one, because the problem is in it. Eventually, you will reach a black one. And I think this applies to very hard problems, and a lot of people give up. And I think, and I've seen this in many places in different ways. I think the most important thing that the founder can do is never give up, or do not give up very fast. I think that the solution is always harder if the problem is harder, but fewer people will find it. And you have to not give up. If you give up very fast, then basically you expect it to win very fast. You expect it. So there was a startup that I know that in 3 months with minimal development, they were growing like crazy. And they said, look, because we're growing this fast, then nobody can actually can copy us, or can fight with us. But actually, that is the opposite. If you can build something in 3 months and grow fast, then a lot of other clones will happen very, very fast. A lot of other companies will do exactly the same thing. So that is actually a really big defensible problem. But if you take years to get to the black ball, to find the black ball, others will take years to get there, unless for some, I don't know, luck. But so the concept is that if it takes a longer time to get there, they will be harder to also get out of there. So companies like Amazon, for example, took years to get where they are. And it's impossible to get where Amazon is without that kind of journey. But that kind of journey is something not a lot of companies want to take, to wait 7 years to get a result from a technology or a theory or an idea they want to do. So I think that's very, very counterintuitive. It happens to everywhere. Sales, marketing, technology, product happens everywhere, I think.
Yeah, I think kind of like quite frequent critique of the whole VC scene nowadays is that the fund sizes are just too short to really wait for a company to succeed with the standard like 8 to 10 years of fund life cycle. Do you agree with that based on this? So should people have like a higher time frame mindset?
Maybe it's not one size fits all. I think the different approach makes sense for different investors, and maybe investors should diversify. So you have an investment that maybe you want to return a certain multiple, but you also want to hit big. And if you want to hit big, it's like when you plant. If you have a year to get the result from what you plant, you only plant tomatoes. If you have 2 years, you will plant, I don't know, strawberries, something else. If you have 10 years, you will start planting trees that make much more, but first few years make nothing. So the thing is, if you're in agriculture, right? But in the same way, an investor can say, look, I want some revenue in the first year, some in the second year, and I'm okay to have some revenue from some of the companies in the third year or fifth year, whatever. But the thing is, not all investors diversify. Some investors never diversify and only look at something that they can win very fast in like 1, 2, 3 years. And in that respect, they will only plant tomatoes. And there's not big upside to win from tomatoes unless you have luck, or in some situations you win something, but not as much. You want to plant trees, and basically in our lives we do the same. We go to school, we go to so many things that don't pay right away.
Right.
So we have to take a balanced approach. In order to go to school, you have to eat, so you have to work something. You'll have some money from somewhere to go to there. But you also want to invest in school because after you finish school, you're better at whatever you want to do. In the same way, an investor maybe thinks, or even a startup can think, look, I have 2 products. This one sales, make some money, but will not get us to like $1 billion valuation. But this other thing takes 3 years to start selling. But this is a North Star. This is something that will really bring us $1 billion valuation plus or something like that. So I think diversifying this thing is not a bad idea. A lot of people will contradict me here, so I think it's different visions for different companies.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, everyone, whether an individual or institution, have to find their own trade-off, their own risk appetite, and just act accordingly. In terms of company building, investments, and any personal choices as well.
Yeah, and sometimes it's about risk. You don't know when you grow a tree for the first time, you never know if it actually will produce fruits. That's very, very like first person who grew a walnut tree never knew it will ever produce fruits. At the beginning, you only produce shadow, but sometimes even shadow is good for a while, and then afterwards, fruits. That's really bad. This is really good, and then you all of a sudden, some people stumble upon growth without knowing that there will be growth. There are a number of companies that are really successful right now. And if you hear their founders explaining how they got there, a lot of them have no clue because they didn't even know that there's actually an exponential growth happening behind the scenes. They thought it's linear and something is not working, when instead it was working very slow. And then at some point it just became exponential and it started working really well. And that happened in so many domains.
Yeah, things are compounding. All right, Raul, I don't see any questions. I think people are already tired. So maybe let's just wrap it up. Thanks so much for being here, sharing all your experiences. What's the best way to stay connected with you, with TypingDNA?
So feel free to find me on LinkedIn, Raul Popa, on any social channel, and for TypingDNA, it's typingdna.com. We have a bunch of things that we give away for free at this point. If the developers want to integrate this, we have some promotions happening this month, and I really encourage you to check out typingdna.com for solutions in this space.
All right, thanks so much. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, guys. That was a great conversation. I love this tomato versus tree, and now I'm talking about with the life cycles of companies. Really good stuff. Cool. Thank you so much, Bernat. Great job. Thank you, both of you. What a great way to finish off our conference. So thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. Alrighty, take
Thank you.
care. Okay, wow. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. This was a really amazing 2 days. So over the course of this conference, we had over hundreds of registrations. We heard 6 different keynotes, 6 fireside chats. We had 2 pitch slams giving 8 regional startups the chance to get feedback from top-tier European VCs. We had 4 dedicated networking blocks, lots of new relationships formed throughout the 2 days. Some highlights from the conference. We had some great, wonderful talks from the folks at Creandum, Simon Schminke and Frederick Castle, and hearing from the founders from their 3 Hungarian portfolio companies, Shaper 3D, Craft, and Seon. We got into the details with Kinga's talk about published drives, techniques for finding growth during the pandemic, Alex Gadelka's talk on how to scale your sales team at the 2 major inflection points of a startup's growth cycle, and Jimmy Fong's talk on product-led growth and go-to-market strategy. And so many kernels of wisdom from our fireside chats. I definitely learned a lot. My head is still spinning from all the great conversations and hands-on tactics. If there's something you missed or a talk that you want to rewatch and take some notes, the replays will be available tonight until 10 p.m. So catch them while you can. And we'd love to hear from you. So reach out with your feedback, post your key takeaways and lessons learned, and tag us. We would love for this event and community to live on throughout the year. I'd like to give a big thank you to all of our speakers, moderators, and jury panelists for joining us. Everybody was really so nice and authentic, and you could really tell that they were just here to give back and share their knowledge. One of my key takeaways, and something really echoed by a lot of the speakers, talent is distributed everywhere, and there's no reason the next unicorn or decacorn won't come from the CEE region. Everybody said, never give up. Starting and scaling companies is hard. And you heard it here, all of these top companies with huge funding rounds, they're very open about how many mistakes they made along the way. Nobody's perfect. The point is to keep going, don't give up, trust the process, and really anything is possible. So don't be discouraged or feel like you can't compete. If you have the passion and the drive, you can create a global company from Central Europe, and then come back and share your story with us next year. So big thanks to the organizers, Startup Europe Networks and Startup Hungary, powered by Tech Camp Global and the US Embassy in Hungary. It's been a real pleasure to be here with you on this 2-day journey. This was Untold Stories Conference 2021. Thank you for being with us. And that's a wrap. Take care, everybody. Stay safe, and we'll see you next year, hopefully in person. Good night.